One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Big day for President Trump and our campaign. President Trump is going to be giving remarks unveiling his economic plan for the next 4 years to fix the economic mess that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have created with their increased spending, higher taxes, and burdensome regulation on American industry. First of all, President Trump is going to announce a national declaration to expedite American energy. This is part of his plan to cut energy prices in half for hardworking families across the country who are struggling to pay their electric bills and heat their homes. Secondly, President Trump is going to announce a plan to make housing affordable again in this country. And President Trump is also going to launch a massive deregulatory campaign. We know in his first term, for every new regulation put on the books, the Trump administration cut 2 regulations. And now, especially our energy industry has been crippled by the Biden administration and Kamala Harris's attack with these regulations. So President Trump is going to be even more aggressive with his deregulatory agenda in a second term. Regulations are costing the average American household $11,000 right now. That's on top of Biden inflation. Look, Kamala Harris has made the cost of everything in this country increase. She can't be trusted to cut costs now. President Trump has a strong first-term record, and he's going to build on that success. Today is going to be a great speech.
New data yesterday says job openings crashed by 500,000 jobs, hitting the worst level since 2021. Right before Joe Biden and cackles unleashed inflation upon a sleeping republic. Meanwhile, layoffs soared to 1.8 million, dominated by leisure and hospitality as the American consumer folds up shop to staycation their way through the Biden-Harris miracle. This brings job openings to just 7.7 million. For perspective, there were 12 million job openings just 2.5 years ago. So around about 4.5 million jobs have evaporated. And while there were 2 jobs per unemployed worker back then, now it's just 1.1. In fact, if we take the more realistic U6 unemployment number, that's closer to 6 openings per 10 unemployed workers.
I'm not sure if you've seen the data that came out today that confirmed what this gentleman is saying, but the job market has tanked yet again. They've been cooking the books for a number of months, And now these people are found out. Unfortunately, for Cackles, this information came out just before the debate next week. I don't know how she survives this. It just seems like it's one bad bit of information after another. It's just insane. She's done. I keep saying it. You have to be a complete moron to think that she's going to win with all of this negative data coming in waves right after each other. And I think her only shot at this point is try to convince people that it's the Russians. The Russians are coming. Oh my God, how stupid do people have to be to not see this choreographed plan to try and deflect? But then Vladimir Putin, put her in checkmate. He comes out and says, yeah, I endorse Kamala. Now what do? The guy that you're saying is basically trying to interfere came out and said he supports Kamala. What do you do now, Kamala? You got no place to go.
This latest number was a big miss to Wall Street expectations. In fact, it was worse than the most pessimistic prediction, suggesting that either Wall Street is really bad at estimating jobs or the numbers are cooked.
I'm going to take option B. They cooked the books. They've been trying to do everything they possibly can all the way back to the days of Dementia Joe. You remember that? Remember we had a president that was running for re-election who no longer can be seen anywhere unless they put him in the play school area. He gets to play at the little desk. You remember that guy? And now they're cooking the books again to try and save Kamala Harris.
Given the previous month was also revised down by roughly 200,000, revised a month late when media is not paying attention, it argues for some very creative accounting over at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, where democracy really does die in darkness. The U.S. economy now has the lowest number of job openings since January of 2021, back when half the country was still in lockdown since Democrat governors were waiting for Joe Biden to take over before declaring the pandemic over.
How does she survive this? It goes back to when you first got in office, and since then you've been cooking the books to try and make it look a certain way, and you've got people that you're paying to give out misinformation to say that, she's going to do a much better job with the economy. And I just think that the refrain has to be continually throughout the debate next week. Well, why haven't you done it? Stop telling me what you think you're going to do in January if you get elected. I think you should focus and tell us, Kamala, why you haven't done it. And Trump should just say that over and over. Let people understand you're in office. You are the vice president. However you got there, you are the vice president. So stop telling us what you're going to do. Let's focus on why you're not doing it. Every time she says something, well, if I get elected, I'm going to do this. Trump's first refrain is, great, why aren't you doing it right now? What's she going to say? I don't even know how you would answer that. Just keep pushing it back. Let everybody in the country understand you are the current vice president. You have been working hand in hand with Dementia Joe every single day, whenever you could find him. You're the last person in the room. Okay, if that's the truth, which we all know it to be, then why haven't you done the things that you're saying that you want to do? I don't understand how she could have an answer for that that's not going to be just complete BS, pure pablum, throwing up all over herself. The moderators can't help her. There's nothing you can respond to that makes any sense to the American people. That's just one question. We should hear that over and over and over on the 10th. Why haven't you done the things you say you're going to do in January? And there's absolutely no answer. What is she going to say? Well, Joe didn't let me. The Republicans blocked it in Congress. They didn't block anything. You didn't do anything. How would you possibly know? You said you now want to basically build a wall. Why didn't you have you and Joe come together, talk to Mike Johnson, and say, hey, let's go ahead and do this wall thing now? Why didn't you do it? See, there's an interesting part that's happening in the debate rules that got buried. Yeah, she agreed to standing up. Yeah, she finally agreed to not having any notes. But there was one codicil that they snuck into the debate rules. And that codicil that they snuck in is the candidates can't ask each other questions. So instead of asking a question, Trump's just going to have to say, I don't understand. Somebody should ask her why she hasn't done it. And just keep saying that over and over because it exposes her and connects her to Dementia Joe.
The collapse was particularly dramatic in construction. Zero Hedge called it free fall, with job openings dropping in half from 450,000 to just 248 in the last 6 months.
And then play this Bidenomics stuff over and over and over again, because right now you're attached to Bidenomics. We have the videotape of you saying Bidenomics is awesome.
That is driven partly by a collapse in manufacturing, as in factories, and partly by a collapse in housing construction. In fact, housing starts hit just 1.2 million, which is down a third in 2 years, and happening despite record house prices that should be driving a nationwide boom, but are not because the Fed is trying to strangle the economy with rate hikes so Washington can keep spending.
You can't see and this is my wheelhouse, I know some real estate, you can't expect the real estate market to return when you're seeing 7 and 8% interest rates. And understand this, the interest rates that are publicized are for the people with the best of credit. Not everybody, if the prime rate is 2, you're not going to get a 2% mortgage. If the prime rate is 5, you're not going to get a 5% mortgage guaranteed. If it's 7, you're not likely to get a 7% interest rate if you don't have stellar credit. So these people who want to buy houses who have some glitches, not bad people, good people who had bad things happen to them, and they say, listen, I'm prepared to buy this house. I want to buy this house, say, listen, for $400,000. Great. What's your down payment? Ooh, how much I got to have? You got to come up with about 75 to 80 grand on that $400,000 house, unless of course you do FHA. If FHA limits in your area would allow you to buy a $400,000 house, do you have, $60, $70, $80,000 put down? Nope. Oh, wow. Well, we've got some programs that may help you, but you know what? They're going to be about 9 and 10%. Well, what would my payment be if I had to pay like 9 or 10% because I don't have enough to put down? Well, you're probably going to be looking somewhere in a neighborhood with taxes and insurance, probably like $3,000, $4,000 a month. And then you're going to just watch the blood rush out of people's faces because now if you're got to pay $4,000 a month for your new mortgage with the taxes and insurance and everything, then you better have an income of about, let's say about 150 grand a year household income. Because they'd like to keep your mortgage payment at about 25% of your income. Basically, a month there you got to play with. So if you need $150,000 to $170,000 of household income to even buy a house, take all those people who don't make that money off the table, because the interest rates on your mortgage would be too high. So when she says she's going to stimulate the housing market and she's going to give away free mortgages and all this other stuff to newcomers, because I guess they don't have to qualify. I guess a newcomer who just shows up, comes across the border, gets a clean Social Security number, no job history, because they haven't been working for 24 months. They're going to get all this stuff. But the American who's been here, who's been paying taxes, who wants to buy a house, you got to get in that line and qualify. She just doesn't understand business. She doesn't understand the reality of what these interest rates and the economy have done to people, and how the job market and coupled with the interest rates are basically terrorizing the real estate market. They don't grasp that because they don't want you to own anything, except if you're a newcomer. They're fine with that. I'm sure. I'm sure they're okay with that. Oops, wrong button again. Barry keeps hitting the wrong buttons. Okay.
As for the recession, after they revised 800,000 jobs into oblivion last month, this 500,000 drop is raising concerns that we are already in recession. That drove expectations for a big rate cut by the Fed at their next meeting on September 18th. Markets are now expecting a 50 basis point cut, meaning 0.5%. Now, in the past 50 years, that has only happened in the lead-in to recession. But don't worry, Jerome Powell is telling us everything is fine and the soft landing is nigh. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Gold and Bitcoin jumped on the report, suggesting more inflation, perhaps from soaring deficits that recessions cause. I mentioned in a previous video to expect between $3 and $4 trillion deficits once the recession hits in force. Meanwhile,
$3 to $4 trillion in deficits. Just imagine what that's going to do to our economy. And then she's talking about, basically doing the capital gains thing on unrealized capital gains, and it's just compounding the problem on top of everything. So just to let you know, I am checking the screen. He hasn't come out. He's due to come out at 12, so we got 15 minutes to continue to talk about this. It's just bad news. It's so bad that one of her own supporters, somebody who's on her team, one of her acolytes, went on CNBC and basically said, yeah, the stuff that she's talking about isn't going to work. One of her own people, a senator from California.
Good thing. I mean, let's say you're an entrepreneur. You create a company. It gets to 100 million or 200 million on paper. Now, if you're taxing that, you're probably going to force that person to sell it. They're probably going to sell it to private equity. Do you really want the entrepreneurs to be forced to sell their companies to larger institutions and to decline in value? I don't think that that's what you want for a startup ecosystem.
That would be the unintended consequence. Jeff Bezos wouldn't have to do that. They're going after these very, I think the whole policy is demagoguing to go after these people that they say pay less of a tax rate than their maid does, and they have billions of dollars.
I get they keep telling you it's only going to affect the rich people. Don't worry about it. Those of you who have small businesses, don't worry. It's not going to affect you. They're lying to you.
I get why, but this is not the right way to do it. And also 95% of investments in startups fail. And so you're going to disincentivize investments in those startups. But
Ro Khanna was trashing it because he is from Silicon Valley, and liberals in Silicon Valley know that this is that tax on unrealized capital gains, and they can dismiss it and say, oh, it's only for really rich people. It is an existential threat to the creation economy, to the innovation economy. And once it begins, it is the death of the United States as we know it.
I completely agree with her. So many people are financially illiterate. Completely illiterate, and don't understand what an unrealized capital gains would do to the entirety of the business market. Not just the people at Home Depot who are, making $10 million a year, or the guys at Apple, or Mark Cuban, he's full of crap. It hurts all the way down. They alluded to that in terms of the investment into a company. Let's say, I'm sitting on $100 million. And you come to me and say, listen, I got this idea for this startup. We're going to make widgets. And I think that this widget company could do very, very well. And I think this widget company could be, a 10, 20, $100 million company. Barry, your plan sounds good. What's your market? Well, I'm going to sell it to these people here and to these people there. And how are you going to bring it to market? Well, I'm going to advertise here. I'm going to market here. Everything sounds great. All right, so how much do you need? Well, I'd like to get started with about a $5 million investment. Sounds great. I'll have my people and your people draw up the paperwork. The guy who's putting in that $5 million, if it was me and I got $100 million, I'm investing into this company because I'm thinking I'm going to make a return in this company. Right now, he's got nothing. He's got an idea. He's got a dream. And he's coming to someone like me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get behind your dream because we're going to make some money. It might take me a year, it might take me 5 years, but I'm with you, Barry. Let's go ahead and make some money. And that's where the problem comes in. Because now I own stock in that company, and I have to understand I'm going to have to pay the unrealized capital gains on my investment in Joe's company. I may look at this now and go, can't do it. They're going to make me pay, basically all kinds of taxes, not knowing what your company is going to do. And if your company does begin to grow, then I got to pay on my investment because I'm invested into your company. And if your company goes to a $5 million valuation and I own, 50% of the stock, haven't cashed in, but I own 50% of the stock, now I just made, a bunch of money. But I haven't realized it because it's not in my bank account. So I got to pay, 25, 30% on that unrealized capital gains that I haven't even put in my pocket. I don't think I'm interested in doing this deal anymore. So Barry, sounds great. I know it would be fun. It would be fantastic. We'd both make a bunch of money, but you know what? I can't do it. So when they tell you it doesn't affect the small people, you have to be able to look past that and realize you're being lied to. Because every small business entrepreneur is looking for capital from somebody else to start them. You need that seed capital. And now they're going to hurt the people who provide that seed capital. This isn't by accident. This is Marxism 101. If I stop capital from going into these businesses, then these people can't start businesses, which means they continue to be wards of the state. Because there's not going to be a lot of investors, whether they want to invest in a builder or anybody else, if they're going to be stuck footing the tax bill and everything. She can't do this. We can't allow it. Even her own people are saying it. Luckily, as we got 10 minutes, Trump has an idea. A good idea. And that idea is basically tying together Elon Musk. This came out in the Wall Street Journal this morning. Trump to adopt Elon Musk's proposal for Government Efficiency Commission. And Elon's like, I look forward to serving America if the opportunity arises. No pay, no title, no recognition is needed. Just helping America. He went on to say, after this came out, Trump to announce Elon, that's going to happen when he gets on stage, Trump to announce Elon recommended Government Efficiency Commission. Elon tweets, this would unlock tremendous prosperity for America. They hate this. They hate the word prosperity. Even though they try to talk about it, they don't want people being wealthy, being rich, being self-sufficient. That is completely in reverse of what the Democrats want to see people do. They don't want you to enjoy prosperity. They never talk about it, really. Think about it. You've got black people who have been on the plantation for decades who they never talk about seeing. We want to see you prosper. No, they talk about reparations. We want to give you something. I don't need you to give me anything. I need you to get out of my way, get rid of these regulations. I'll make it myself. If somebody said to me today, Barry, what do you need to make this stuff work? And I've got my lovely daughter, Ashley, who's now working on basically doing some producing. She's in here with the comments. I've got another relative that wants to get involved as well. All I need is get these guys off my back. Get these guys, and you know who I'm talking about. Get the censorship off my back. Let me talk. Stop suppressing content. Get those regulations off where I can't say certain words and I have to be very careful. Why can't I say the big A word? Why do you just come down on this unless I'm putting out some kiddie videos or something? That's all we need. Get out of our way. We'll take care of ourselves. You don't got to give me anything. Never needed it in real estate. Don't need it here. If I want to go buy a house, I know who I can get the money from. Will he still do it if he's got to pay a 50% capital gains tax? Not going to structure it that way. See, I know how to structure a deal. That's something else they don't teach people. So instead of investing and having to take unrealized capital gains, I'll do it like Mr. Wonderful, and I'll say, listen, what we're going to do is we'll give you a premium on the price of the resale of the house. Nobody's going to know what that resale is, so it's not unrealized capital gains, and we're going to pay you so much interest and points while your money is outstanding. Wow, that sounds good, Barry. What are you going to give me? I'll give you 12% interest per month while your money is outstanding, capped at X dollars. Wow, okay, it's like a royalty, yep. And then when I sell it, we'll do some sort of partnership deal and you'll get this percentage. You'll realize the profits. You're not paying on it until we sell the property. Business is gonna business. Business will continue to survive. The smaller people who don't know how to structure deals are going to be hurt very badly, very badly. I keep showing it because it keeps coming up. This somebody posted something about Javier Milei, and I've shown you the video where he walked in and just started plucking these agencies off of the board and getting rid of them in government. Now Argentina is going to be a prosperous country. And Elon Musk says true. Only entrepreneurs create wealth, not politicians. Your government is never going to make you rich. Just going to have to accept that. There is nothing your government is going to provide for you that's going to make you rich. You have to have an entrepreneurial state of mind. You have to understand how to take advantage of the opportunities before you. And you need to know where to go to seize on these opportunities. I don't have enough time to play the rest of the video, but after Trump gets done talking and unveiling everything, I'll go ahead and show you exactly what I'm talking about. This is what's expected to be said today. Trump plans to unveil a series of economic proposals, including creating a government efficiency commission inspired by Elon and run by Elon. In a speech at the Economic Club of New York, the commission aims to conduct a comprehensive audit of federal finances and operations, targeting fraud and unnecessary spending. Trump also intends to roll back regulations and rescind unspent funds from the Biden administration. All this cash that they've been sitting on that they haven't spent, he's like, we're going to take that back and use it for, make a better use case of it. What's this one say? What Elon will be doing, plans to outline his proposal, blah, 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 and an audit of the entire federal government. The goal would be to identify ways to eliminate fraud and improper payments, according to the portions of the speech reviewed by the Wall Street Journal. So he's looking to just drop some serious science today, stuff that's going to make the Democrats absolutely freak out, which I love. I love watching them freak out because they also have no answer to that. The gentleman who was talking about the jobs report dropped today. Peter Schiff says today brought more evidence of a weak labor market. Challenger reported 76,000 announced layoffs, triple the prior month. ADP reported just 99,000 private sector jobs in the entire country, the fewest since January of 2021, when they took office. They haven't budged since they took office, and far below the 140,000 expected. And of course, as you know, July's number was revised downwards. That's just another way of, they cooked the books. They made it look like it was something else. Just to give you that in perspective, so you can see what that looks like. There's your graph. There's your graph right there. So you can see how bad the economy is going in the job market right there. It has absolutely just pooped the bed. There's no covering this up, Kamala. There's no way that you can basically say things are good at this point, because they're not. You've been found out. Just checking here. Let me just check. Yeah, it's still... I want to make sure we don't miss it when he comes out. All right, we're live. So anyway, that's where we are with today's report and what Trump's gonna talk about. Trump keeps saying stuff the deep state hates, and will take another attempt at. Yeah, they may. It is planned. Lord Jesus, please protect Trump, Vance, and Musk, and everybody else of them. Thank you, Sean, for never missing them. I understand also tonight, I think Sean Hannity is going to do part 2, where they actually take questions from the audience. So I'm going to look to see if I can confirm that. If I can confirm that, I'm going to go ahead and bring that to you as well. Another thing I wanted to address, Ashley has told me that many people are not getting the notifications when we go live. Let me tell you why. There is a different couple of ways for you to get notifications. Sometimes people hit subscribe and they think they're going to get the notifications. This is what you actually have to. Oops, I hit the wrong button. This is what you actually have to do. You have to click subscribe, then you have to click the bell, then you have to click all. If you don't take all of those steps, if you don't click all those steps and click the bell that says all, you will not get all of the notifications every time I go live. So let me just play that again so you guys understand that. You've got to basically go in, you click subscribe, you click there, you click the bell, and then that word there, all, you have to click that. If you don't click that, you will not get the notifications because YouTube slacks on that. And they kind of hide it. They don't want you to have to go through all that work because that's how they suppress content, I guess. I don't know. But you got to click all. If you click all, you'll get notified every single time. Somebody says I did it yesterday, and today I got the notification. So just remember to go back and click that all, and you'll get notified, and you won't miss everything. So it's 12:01 at this point. Let me just make sure. He has not gone live yet. He's late often, but we shall see. No, he's not live as of yet. So we could take some more comments. Thanks, Barry. I've done that multiple times. For some reason, it keeps unscribing me from your channel. Again, like I said, I don't need an investment from YouTube. I just need you to get out the way. If they get out the way and let people just talk and subscribe and get notifications, everything would be fine. Mine is just set like that. I still don't get notified. I've even redone it. It is what it is. I can't do anything about it, but thank you for showing up anyway. The COLA for Social Security is sorry, 3. I only get maybe 25, and Medicare B goes up from 174 to 185, so maybe $16. Okay. Let's see. I sometimes research your name. Yeah, exactly. Better late than sorry. All right, so that's the best I can do about their things. Hey Barry, am I wearing a Lear Capital shirt? No, this is just a blue polo that I have, blue and white polo, so that's there. So while we're waiting, I'll go to the next video, and just make sure we don't miss him when he pops on here. So let me go ahead and start playing the rest of that video with the people at Fox Business.
Well, it's the death of capitalism. We have to start thinking about what the economy stands for. It's the American dream. It's the opportunity to achieve. But now Kamala Harris is talking about taxing unrealized gains. What if we have losses tomorrow? Are we suddenly going to get reimbursements for those losses? She's not actually critically thinking. And I'll tell you, I'm a small business owner and attorney. There are so many small businesses that have been crushed under Kamala Harris's policies. So for her to come out and roll out this plan to give $50,000, do you know how much that's going to cost us? That's going to cost the American taxpayers $20 billion in the next 10 years. We can't afford that, and she's not listening. What we want is less regulation. Yes. Kamala Harris needs to back off and back down so we can survive and thrive. She hasn't gotten the memo, and she continues to throw these policies. Exactly.
And here's the one thing that nobody saw coming, and this is the competition of states. I don't put companies here in New York anymore, or in Massachusetts, or in New Jersey, or in California. Those states are uninvestable. The policy here is insane. The taxes are too high. We put them in Fargo, North Dakota, because 40% of the people work elsewhere, including Boston. So I was, a bit of a debate with Elizabeth Warren about this, but I say, look, Senator, we've got to move the companies out of your state because you're not investable anymore. You're punishing people if they're successful. You overtax them. You hit them with a super tax. New Jersey, what a mess. New York, uninvestable.
Wait,
California,
why is New York uninvestable?
The fact that she had to ask that question, wait, why is New York uninvestable? Tells me that you're taking your hundreds of thousands of dollars that CNN is paying you, and you have no idea how to invest. Unless you were just playing dumb so he could answer, that's possible. Give her that. She was trying to get him to say why. But if you don't know why, that's a problem. That's a big problem. So let him tell you why.
And do a project in New York. Try and build a data.
Yeah, I'm asking, Don's point, is it beyond the taxes?
Oh, the regulatory environment is punitive. I had a project in upstate New York behind the grid in Niagara Falls for electricity, a global data center we were building. Eventually, it got so bad with the politicians in the local region and the state policy, we moved it to Norway and all the jobs. Wow. Norway has it now. Thousands of jobs coming out of that. I mean, that's New York, uninvestable. Sorry, don't shoot the messenger. Just telling.
Don't shoot the messenger. Sorry, that's how it is. Notice she had no comeback to that. The taxes are too high. You want to force the labor. You want me to have to pay $20, $25 minimum wage. People can't do the work. I can't hire people who can't do the work. And yet you still want me to pay and do everything and deal with all the regulations to run a business. No, business will business. Business will survive. Business will find the path of least resistance. When you have a business, especially when it's a big business like he's talking about, when you have a business that size, people will say, come here. You've seen it. When Elon Musk said, I'm getting Twitter/X out of here, out of California, you had Florida and Texas both raising their hands. Hey, come on down. Come on down. I bet you many of you don't know that there is a Wall Street of the South right here in Miami, right outside Brickell Avenue. There are redundant servers. There are companies that are on Wall Street in New York who had to make sure that if something like a 9/11 ever happened again, they would not falter. They have replicated their same offices. Huge. May not be that many people there today. But if something happened, boom, they could roll into Miami, come to these offices right away. Miami is the gateway of business to South America and all points that way. Business will business. Kamala doesn't understand that, or she feigns that she doesn't understand it because they don't care about business.
The way it is.
Yeah,
That's it. Uninvestable.
Some pushback from our elected officials in New York on that.
I was just going to say Kathy Hochul.
Yeah.
I don't care if an elected official has some pushback. Caitlin Collins, you're that stupid? Of course the politician is going to push back. It's the people who write the checks you need to understand and talk to. If I'm writing a check every month or quarter to New York, and I got to pay New York/Manhattan taxes, I've got to pay New York State taxes, I've got to pay real estate taxes, I got to pay federal taxes. Are you kidding me? So I can go to Florida or Texas and not have any state income tax? And I don't have to pay this, and I don't have to pay that, and I don't have regulators jumping down my throat? I don't have people that want to enforce all kinds of zoning restrictions? You understand if you've actually been in business. The problem is that these people have never done anything. These are the same people who want to run the government. I personally would rather deal with a billionaire and his billionaire buddies to say, here's what we're going to do and here's what we're going to set up. Well, Barry, this billionaire you're talking about, he's had bankruptcies and this and that. Yeah, that means he knows what not to do. You mean so many people try to put this stigma against him because he's had bad deals that have gone south. How many deals have you actually done? The whole idea is to keep taking risk, keep taking chances, keep trying to see what works and what doesn't work. And at the end of the day, you're hoping you have more ups than downs. You hope that some of your ups cancel out your downs in spades. Like I said, plus or minus 1,000 homes. Did I make the same amount on every single house? Did I make a killing on every single house? No. But I'll take a 70 or 80% success rate over a 20% fail rate any day of the week. Hey, I got into this house and oh my God, we're having all kinds of problems here. What are we going to do? Oh, this one's not going to be that profitable. All right, put a bow on it and let's get rid of it. We're done here. Cut your losses. Hey, this one you bought, hey, we're going to probably make 100, 150 grand on this property. Let's go. People who aren't in business focus on losses. They focus on failure. People who are successful in business understand that failure is part of you becoming successful. Heard a quote a long time ago, that to be a Major League Hall of Famer, you only have to be successful 3 out of 10 times. 30% gets you into Hall of Fame. If you're a 300 hitter in Major League Baseball, you're a Hall of Fame hitter. That's just 3 out of 10. I just have to be successful 3 out of time, and I'm making the Hall of Fame. Go look up how many missed shots that Michael Jordan has taken. Michael Jordan is considered arguably one of the best basketball players ever. And he's got a quote, and he's like, I missed six or 10 shots when the team called on me to win. People don't recognize that. They just know his championships. Business is gonna business. And that's what we're going to find out today. Let's continue with this charade at CNN. It's funny.
But
I'll debate them any time of the day you want.
We would love to set that up.
Particularly
I'd watch
AOC.
that.
She's great at killing jobs. She kills jobs by the thousands. Another New Jersey problem. Where did Amazon take their jobs? They took them away from her. She threatened to sue them if they created jobs. I mean, this is a reality. There's a reality that the business...
There's a little more to it, but let's not relitigate that.
Sorry, just telling the truth.
He's saying what a lot of people are saying, especially what happened with that Amazon thing here in New York. Just real quickly,
Ooh, they just kind of swept that under the rug really quick. Let's not talk about this Amazon thing. She decided, she was going to put her foot down in her district, and Amazon wasn't going to open up a big, warehouse in her area, not unless you're paying $25 per hour, and make a living wage. How about you stick it, and we're just going to go someplace else. We're just going to take all these $100,000 a year jobs that we had planned. Okay, he's talking. 1 second. All right. Our man is doing some introductions, so let's go ahead and cut to him.
Former Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin, former SEC Chairman Jay Clayton, Ambassador Woody Johnson, Senior Advisor Stephen Miller, my friends and respected business leaders all, John Paulson, Jamie Dimon, Steve Witkoff, Steve Schwarzman, Scott Bassett, Jeff Sprecher, Richard Kurtz, former head of the World Bank, David Malpass, and the 2 co-chairs of my presidential transition team that are being inundated with phone calls and requests, Linda McMahon and Howard Lutnick. Thank you. As we gather today, we have an economic disaster on our hands. We have an economy in crisis, a failing nation.
Let me know if the volume is okay.
Under the radical policies of my former opponent, Joe Biden, and my new opponent, Kamala Harris. 1.3 million workers have become unemployed in the past 12 months. I don't know if anybody knows that. The typical American family has lost over $28,000 due to rampant and record-setting inflation. Credit card debt has reached the highest in history, with more than 1 in 3 Americans reporting they have maxed out their credit cards. They've maxed out. Families now need to earn an estimated $110,000 a year to afford a typical home, meaning 65% of households are locked out of buying just an ordinary house. Gasoline prices, grocery prices, electricity prices, mortgage rates, and virtually everything else are up 30 to 100% since I left office. 8.4 million Americans are now working second jobs, the highest in more than 30 years. The real wages of African American workers are down by over 6 a short period of time. The real incomes from Hispanic men are down 6.6%, or $3,600 per year. And on top of that, African Americans and Hispanic American jobs are under massive threat from the invasion taking place at our border. They're taking the jobs of Hispanic Americans, African Americans, and nobody talks about it. But I won't let it happen. Yet after presiding over the border, the worst in history for any country, there's never been a border like this. 21 million people, we project. This total economic catastrophe, the border czar, Kamala Harris, has now been slotted in by the Democrats to be reelected. She wants 4 more years to enforce a radical left agenda that poses a fundamental threat to the prosperity of every American family and America itself. And we're talking about America itself. She wants to defund the police, have totally open borders, ban fracking in Pennsylvania and everywhere else, take away your private health insurance, and perhaps most pertinent to the very brilliant people in this room, raise your business and corporate taxes, and unbelievably, she will seek a tax on unrealized capital gains. Most people don't even know what that means. What does it mean? She has been after all of this for years, and as everyone knows, she is a Marxist who destroyed almost single-handedly San Francisco, and when she was the AG, California itself, not the same place. People are leaving. They're fleeing like they are in New York. She'll seek out and she will try and get those things if she's elected, and she may very well succeed in getting them. She recently said her values have not changed, and these have really been her values for her entire career. Her values haven't changed. That's what she wants. So she told the truth. We're not going to let this happen. Communism is the past, freedom is the future, and it is time to send Comrade Kamala Harris back home to California, where crime is rampant and fleeing is the #1 occupation. I'm here today to lay out my plan to rescue our country from this nightmare and to bring back to its citizens the American dream, bigger, better, and stronger than ever before. 8 years ago, I came before you as a candidate for president and shared my vision to end the stagnation and return to rapid growth. That's what we did. As president, I am very proud to say that we accomplished something that nobody thought that was even possible. Before the pandemic, real median household income rose by $7,684. And even after the pandemic, annual incomes were up $6,400. The average American household saw a $197,000 increase in real net worth in 48 months. For the bottom 50% of households, average wealth more than doubled, increasing by 121%. Lowest income people benefited the most. After 12 years of decline, we added nearly 7 million new homeowners. Never happened before. And in 3 years, we created 7 million new jobs, 260% more than projected when I took office. When I took office, they said you couldn't hit those projections, and we were 260% higher than what we said we could do. From the day I won to the day I left, the S&P 500 increased by 80%, and we did it all with virtually no inflation. We had virtually no inflation. Think of that. Who could believe that? I delivered the largest tax cuts and reform in American history by far, slashing rates for working families and cutting the business tax from the highest in the world. We had the highest in the world, 35%, and actually when you add local and state numbers that were getting close to 50, but much, much higher, nobody's ever seen. We brought it all the way down to 21%, which everybody said was impossible to do. And I heard it from everyone. They said, you'll never be able to do that. And I got it down to 21%. I cut a record number of job-killing regulations. In 4 years, we cut more than any president in the history of our country by far. I'm proud to be president of modern history to achieve a net regulatory reduction during my term. And it was a substantial reduction. And for every regulation we added, we cut more than 5.5 regulations. We unleashed American energy, and within 3 had increased domestic oil production by 47%, and we were just getting started. The price of gasoline was $1.87 a gallon. Doesn't that sound good right now? We negotiated and renegotiated more than 50 trade agreements with other countries that were taking advantage of us, as they all do, to protect the American worker and to open foreign markets, and we did a great job. I ended NAFTA, the worst trade deal ever made in the history of our country, and replaced it with the USMCA, perhaps the best trade deal ever made in history. That's Mexico and Canada. I stood up to China like no one else before me. No one came even close. And I saved the U.S. auto industry from obliteration with a 27.5% tariff on all Chinese cars that remains in place to this day. They want to take it off, but they can't, because number one, it's too much money, and number two, we would be invaded by Chinese cars on top of the other invasions that are taking place. Without it, our auto industry would be dead. And now I am going further. We will bring our auto-making industry to the record levels of 37 years ago, and we'll be able to do it very quickly through tariffs and other smart use of certain things that we have that other countries don't. For 4 straight years, I fought for American workers like I would fight for my own family. I took care of our economy like I would take care of my own company. In every decision I asked, will I create jobs here, or will I be sending jobs overseas? Will it make America richer and stronger, or will it make our country weaker and poorer? I always put America first, every single time. And when our country was hit by the China virus, we saved the economy. We rescued tens of millions of jobs. And after COVID, I handed Kamala and Joe the fastest and strongest recovery ever recorded, nothing even close. With 1.4% inflation, the 30-year mortgage rate was at 2.4%, and the highest stock market in history. This is despite the pandemic. To date, I handed them back the highest stock market to date, after having just suffered with the rest of the world a pandemic, the likes of which nobody had ever seen before. We did an incredible job, and remember, far more people died of COVID under Biden-Harris than under President Trump. Many, many more people. We delivered an economic miracle, which Kamala and Joe turned into an economic disaster, just like they turned the border and indeed the whole world into a catastrophic surrender. Starting on day one, Kamala launched a war on American energy and orchestrated a nation-wrecking border invasion with illegal aliens pouring in from countries all over the world. They came in from countries that nobody ever heard the name of that country. Those countries, from their prisons and jails, there is a difference, from mental institutions and insane asylums, as well as record numbers of terrorists, human traffickers, and sex traffickers. Numbers that we've never seen before taking place over the last 3.5 years. Then Kamala cast the deciding votes on trillions of dollars in wasteful spending which together with their terrible energy policies gave us the worst inflation perhaps in the history of our country. Nearly 2/3 of the jobs created under the Harris-Biden administration were bounce-back jobs. Bounce back. They were bounce-back jobs that I handed them from before the pandemic. This happens with pandemics. You have bounce-back jobs. The pandemic comes and it goes, and those people go back to their jobs. And just last week, Joe Biden admitted that on social media. I don't know if he knew what he admitted, but that's what it said. I wonder who drew it. Perhaps that person is no longer employed by the Democrats. But right now, it's even worse than that. Under Kamala Harris's policies, 3 million workers are now missing from the job force compared to 2020. 3 million workers, that's a lot. Over 500,000 fewer people have full-time jobs today than just 1 year ago, and 100% of the net job creation in the past year has gone to illegal migrants. Think of that. 100% of the jobs created under this administration has gone to illegal migrants that came into our country. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris formed the worst presidency and vice presidency by far in the history of our country. This election will decide whether we reward Kamala Harris with re-election and 4 more years of crime, economic calamity, and international humiliation, or whether we change that direction and once again build the greatest economy in the history of the world, which we had during the Trump administration. Kamala Harris is the first major party nominee in American history who fundamentally rejects freedom and embraces Marxism, communism, and fascism. You're learning about this. You'll find out nobody knew who she was. Just a few months ago, they didn't know who she was. She is promising communist price controls, wealth confiscation, energy annihilation, reparations, the largest tax increase ever imposed, and mass amnesty and citizenship for tens of millions of migrants who will consume trillions of dollars in federal benefits and destroy Social Security and Medicare. They will be destroyed. They're already putting them into your Social Security and Medicare rolls. I am promising low taxes, low regulations, low energy costs, low interest rates, secure borders, low crime, and surging incomes for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. My plan will rapidly defeat inflation, quickly bring down prices, and reignite explosive economic growth. Kamala Harris will take more money out of American pockets. My plan will leave the typical family with many thousands of dollars more than they have right now. First, I will end Kamala Harris's anti-energy crusade and implement a policy of energy abundance, energy independence, and even energy dominance. We have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country, including Russia and Saudi Arabia. We'll be using it. My plan will cut energy prices in half or more than that within 12 months of taking office. It will be an economic revival of our country like no one has ever seen before. Energy was what caused our problem initially. Energy is going to bring us back. That means we're going down and getting gasoline below $2 a gallon, bring down the price of everything from electricity rates to groceries, airfares, and housing costs. That's why OPEC and the Arab nations, and we're very honored to have some of my friends here with us today from that part of the world, but they're working very hard despite being here, that I not be your president. They don't like me. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris can't bring down the price of anything because her energy policies are driving up the cost of everything. Everything is up, way up. Starting on day one, Harris and Biden opened up the Russian pipeline called Nord Stream 2, which nobody have ever heard of until I got involved and said, what about Nord Stream 2? And nobody knew what I was talking about. Largest pipeline in the world, Russian pipeline. But I had it closed. It was shut down. Putin was not happy. We shut it down. They came along, and the Keystone XL pipeline was shut down by them. So they shut down the Keystone, and they immediately gave Russia the right to start rebuilding the Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline you've ever seen. We re-entered the horribly unfair to the United States through them when they came back. Paris Climate Accord, so unfair to us. We pay trillions of dollars. Other countries pay nothing. As soon as he came back, he went back into it. I got us out of it and reduced the area of the federal lands available for drilling by 80%. I did that. If I was president, oil production today would be 4 times higher than it is right now. Would have been 4 times higher. Right now, we'd be doing 4 times as much. And remember, we had ANWR, perhaps the largest drilling site in the world in Alaska, which everybody wanted to get approved, but they weren't able to do it. Ronald Reagan fought so hard to get ANWR. He couldn't do it. And it was easier in those days than it is today with all of the environmental concerns. But they came in their first few days in office, they terminated ANWR, amazingly. Biggest drilling site, we think, in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Texas. We got it, and they terminated it. Under the EPA's so-called power plant rule, more than 50 power plants have been shut down since she took office, and virtually all coal-fired power plants will be shuttered in the next couple of years, setting the stage for a catastrophic energy shortfall, which we already have, that will make inflation far worse than it has ever been. They want to close down our power plants, and we don't have power already to address this dire energy crisis that Kamala and Joe have created. I will immediately issue a national emergency declaration to achieve massive increase in domestic energy supply, which you're going to need. Electricity is desperately needed for AI. AI, controversial, but we got to be the top of it. And we would need, hard to believe, twice the electricity that we currently have right now for everything in order to be dominant. And China is already building massive electricity producing plants. We haven't even thought about it. We will think about it, and I'll get it done on an emergency basis. So we'll be the leader in AI and every other form of technology. With these sweeping authorities, we will blast through every bureaucratic hurdle to issue rapid approvals for new drilling, new pipelines, new refineries, new power plants, new electric plants, and reactors of all types. Prices will fall immediately in anticipation of this tremendous supply that we can create rather quickly. And we'll be the leader instead of the laggard. Second, to further defeat inflation, my plan will terminate the Green New Deal, which I call the Green New Scam, greatest scam in history probably, a $10 trillion scam that we waste, we throw like throwing money right out the window. It actually sets us back as opposed to moves us forward. And rescind all unspent funds under the misnamed Inflation Reduction Act, which the Democrats agreed after it was approved that it wasn't for that purpose, it was for other purposes like giveaways. Kamala spent $7.5 billion to build 8 charging stations. Think of a charging station like a fuel pump with electricity coming out of it. 8 charging stations in the Midwest for electric vehicles cost billions and billions of dollars. 7.5 billion, they think, but the costs are still going, and 3 of them don't work and never will, probably. Other than that, it's worked out quite well. I will end the electric vehicle mandate, stop the appalling waste, and save taxpayers an estimated $1 trillion. Third, I will launch a historic campaign to liberate our economy from crippling regulation. My first term, I pledged to cut 2 old regulations for every 1 new regulation, and we did much better than that, as I've said. Yet over the past 4 years, Kamala has added $6,300 a year in regulatory costs onto the backs of the typical American family. Think of that. To stop this onslaught and lower prices, I'm pledging today that in my second term, we will eliminate a minimum of 10 old regulations for every 1 new regulation. We'll be able to do that quite easily, actually. And instead of attacking industries of the future, we will embrace them, including making America the world capital for crypto and Bitcoin. Fourth, at the suggestion of Elon Musk, who has given me his complete and total endorsement. That's nice, 'cause he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. It's very, very much appreciated. I will create a government efficiency commission tasked with conducting a complete financial and performance audit of the entire federal government and making recommendations for drastic reforms. We need to do it.
Boom.
Can't go on the way we are now.
Boom.
And Elon, because he's not very busy, has agreed to head that task force. Be interesting. If he has the time, that'll be a good one to do it, but he's agreed to do it. In 2022, fraud and improper payments alone cost taxpayers an estimated hundreds of billions of dollars. As the first order of business, this commission will develop an action plan to totally eliminate fraud and improper payments within 6 months. This will save trillions of dollars, trillions. It's massive. For the same service that you have right now, trillions of dollars is wasted and gone, and nobody knows where it went. Further taming inflation and bringing prices way down. The 5th pillar of my plan is to make the Trump tax cuts permanent. They are massive tax cuts, biggest ever, permanent. And to cut taxes even more, and we will have no tax on tips, something which they copied 4 weeks after I said it. She got up and said, no tax on tips. I said, I just said that. She is actually copying a lot of my plan. In fact, we're going to send her a MAGA cap sometime in the next week. We're having a special one made. But we also know she doesn't mean it. She's going to stick with what her whole life has been about. And also, no tax on Social Security benefits. People on Social Security have been wiped out by inflation, and now on top of it, we tax their benefits. We're not going to tax their benefits. We have so many different ways of making so much money. This country, the potential is so incredible. We don't have to take it away from people on Social Security. We're not going to do that. We're going to save Social Security. She's going to destroy Social Security. Under the Trump administration, we proved that targeted tax cuts do not increase the deficit. They reduce the deficit by growing the economy and raising revenue. After we gave the massive tax cuts, we took in the following year with a much lower rate, billions and billions of dollars more than we did the previous year with a high rate. Think of that. So with a much lower rate, we took in more money because people were incentivized. Corporate tax revenues are 31% higher today than before my tax law was signed. With all of those cuts, 31% higher. To further support the revival of American manufacturing, my plan calls for expanded R&D tax credits, 100% bonus depreciation, expensing for new manufacturing investments, and a reduction in the corporate tax rate from 21% to 15% solely for companies that make their product in America. have to make your product in America. If you outsource, offshore, or replace American workers, you're not eligible for any of these benefits. In fact, you will pay a very substantial tariff that comes in from another country, that's made in another country and comes in. There'll be a big tariff on that product because we want to make our goods in America, and most of them we can. My message is simple. Make your product here in America, and only in America. We are not going to be taken advantage of anymore, just as we made great inroads and progress 4 years ago. We made tremendous inroads on this subject. We're not going to watch our wealth and jobs get ripped away from us and sent to foreign countries, which is what's been happening for many, many decades with us. China was built on doing exactly what we're going to be doing and what I started doing 4 years ago. What we're putting forward is the most pro-American manufacturing and jobs policy in modern history for any country. This plan will bring jobs and growth into our country at levels never seen before. Every business on earth will flock to America from Europe, Asia, the Middle East, and all over the world. By contrast, Comrade Kamala Harris wants to sacrifice our wealth, kill the economy, and drive jobs overseas to punish businesses more. Businesses will leave. They'll leave America. They're international companies. They report to their shareholders, and they will leave America if her plan, even in a small form, comes to the fore. Her tax plan, which includes the promise to end the Trump tax cuts, which again by itself would be a massive tax increase, would increase taxes by over $5 trillion, a record many times over. It would result in the largest small business tax hike in history, massively raising taxes on 25 million small business people and raising small business tax rates to 43% and higher. In other words, 20% higher than communist China. Kamala is also vowing to raise the corporate tax rate from 21 to 28%. We're bringing it down to 15%. But she really is looking to raise it to 40, 45, or even 50%. You know that. All you have to do is follow her past path. Radically raise the capital gains tax rate, which she wants to do, and they don't even want to give a number. And for the first time ever, impose a 25% tax on unrealized capital gains. So if you happen to have a lot of wealth but no cash, you're in a lot of trouble. This will lead America into a 1929 depression, and it will be a depression and a territory that we have not seen for a long time. There's a gentleman that happens to believe that, Scott. These policies, especially the tax on unrealized capital gains, would decimate the U.S. economy. Companies and innovation would flee from America to other countries. Venture capital markets would disappear, the stock market would be annihilated, and investors assess the tax liabilities of large shareholders. The seniors and senior pensions would totally go up in smoke. They'd be worthless. These are not the policies designed to create a prosperous America. These are policies to turn the United States into Venezuela on steroids. Even if for this reason alone, Kamala Harris must be defeated decisively this November. Has to be defeated. We cannot have her be the president of the United States. Under Kamala, the United States is becoming a third world banana republic. She and her party are censoring speech, weaponizing the justice system, and trying to throw their political opponents, me, in jail. This hasn't happened. I didn't do that to crooked Hillary. I said, that would be a terrible thing, wouldn't it? Putting the wife of the President of the United States in jail. But they view it differently, I guess, nowadays, but that's okay. And they always have to remember that two can play the game. Nobody ever thought this was possible. This is how you create massive capital flight and turn once prosperous nations into absolute ruins. I will have no higher priority as president than to restore the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law in America. We have lost the rule of law. Who would have thought? Number 6, under my leadership, America will encourage domestic production instead of punishing it. As you know, our country's vast manufacturing wealth was created at a time with very little domestic taxation, few regulations, and most revenue came from tariffs from other countries. That was when we were at the wealthiest ever. Proportionately, we were the wealthiest country ever during those days. That was before income tax came along. Now we foolishly do the opposite. We impose lower tariffs and no tariffs on foreign producers. We have the lowest tariffs of any nation in the world, and we relentlessly punish our own companies for doing business in America. You do business in America, you're punished tremendously. I had many, many companies come to me, sir, I can't compete. They're sending kitchen cabinets, washers and dryers, everything. I can tell you, every motorcycles, they're sending them here, sir. We can't compete. And I made it so they could compete and thrive. Every one of those people, we should get them up and talk to you one day, because every one of those people comes up to me, and every time I see them, they hug me, they kiss me, they love me, because I saved their businesses. I intend to reverse this model and once again turn America into the manufacturing superpower of the world. We can do that just with being intelligent. The key to this effort will be a pro-American trade policy that uses tariffs to encourage production here and bring trillions and trillions of dollars back home. And you know what? We deserve it. We've been helping other countries get rich at our expense. For the last 50 years, we've been pouring our money into other countries, getting nothing for it. We protect them militarily. We do so much for them. We get nothing. My plan is that if you open your factory in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota, anywhere else in our country, you don't pay a tariff tax. You don't pay a tax. You're going to make the product here. But if you move your production outside of the United States and send it back here, which people are doing now, and I stopped it cold, but they've changed that already, then you'll have to pay a very substantial tariff to get your product back into the country. The result will be that everybody in the world will want to be here, and they want to produce here. They're going to want to produce their product in America. It's going to say made in the USA. We will be able to build ships again. We will be able to build planes again. We will be able to build our military again from within, all from within. We will create the biggest, greatest, and strongest middle class in the history of our country. We will have tens of millions of high-paying jobs in manufacturing, transportation, defense, as well as all of the sales and support of export jobs. Our auto industry will be the biggest beneficiary. In short, it will be a national economic renaissance just by using our heads, by being smart, by not letting other countries take advantage of us. They've been doing it for so long. It's so sad to see. And I know them all, and they laugh at us behind our back. They can't believe how stupid our leadership has been for so many years. We will ensure that the United States has a giant steel industry, an aluminum industry, a manufacturing base, and a defense base. We want an industrial base that can take care of our defense needs 100%. And you can call it what you want. Some might say it's economic nationalism. I call it common sense. I call it America first. This is the policy that built this country, and this is the policy that will save our country. In the words of a great but highly underrated president, William McKinley, highly underrated, the protective tariff policy of the Republicans has been made, and made the lives of our countrymen sweeter and brighter. It's the best for our citizenship and our civilization, and it opens up a higher and better destiny for our people. We have to take care of our own nation and her industries first. In other words, take care of our country first. This is when we had our greatest wealth. He was assassinated, and he left his group of people that followed him. Teddy Roosevelt became a great president, spending the money that was made by McKinley. So McKinley got a bad deal on that one. He built tremendous wealth. They had the Tariff Act of 1887, and they had a committee that studied, what are we going to do? They had a big problem, a problem like I hope to have with this country someday. So much money was coming in from foreign countries that they didn't know how to spend it. They had no idea. So they set up a committee. We'll set one up with the people in this room. How do we distribute the wealth that we have? And Roosevelt built dams and built railroads and did national parks. But he did it with the money that was made with tariffs from McKinley. So you have to remember that. Very highly underrated, a very underrated president. Let's give them both credit. Smart tariffs will not create inflation. They will combat inflation. I had almost no inflation, and I had the highest tariffs that anyone's seen, and they were going a lot higher. Foreign nations will pay us hundreds of billions of dollars, reducing the deficit and driving inflation down. It will largely reduce our deficit. In my first term, we imposed historic tariffs with no effect on consumer prices or inflation. The anti-tariff people, many of them, I believe, honestly work for these other countries in some form, get tremendous amounts of lobbying money and other money because it doesn't make sense what they're saying. But we had no inflation, and we had protection, and I saved so many industries. I saved the steel industry. But Biden and Harris are letting it go. They're letting it go. It's so easy to keep. A combination of fair trade, tax cuts, regulatory cuts, and energy abundance will allow us to produce more goods better and cheaper right here in the USA than we've ever done before. And foreign nations will respect us again. I got along great with foreign nations, and I taxed the hell out of them. And they liked me. Maybe they respected me. And Viktor Orban, a very strong man, he's the Prime Minister of Hungary. He said the only thing missing from the world right now is President Trump. He kept the world safe because everybody was afraid of him. I don't like that term, but that's the term he used. I would like to say respected him and respected our country, but he didn't say that. He said everybody was afraid of him. He said China was afraid, Russia was afraid, they were all afraid. Kim Jong-un, I got along great with him. And I try to explain to the fake news media that getting along with people, foreign countries, is a good thing, not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. It's a smart thing. We will require all essential materials for our national security to be produced here in the United States, creating millions and millions of new manufacturing jobs. You know, when we built the F-35, we have the wings built in one country. We have the tail, rudders, built in another country. We have the seats built in another country. We have the electronics built in 7 different countries. What the hell would we do if there's a war? And we'll end up fighting half of those countries, and we don't want to have a war because right now we're closer to World War III than we've ever been in our lives. With Russia, Ukraine, which would have never happened if I was president. With October 7th in Israel, the whole Middle East is blowing up. Would have never happened. They would have never happened. Respectfully, Iran was broke. They had no money for Hamas. They had no money for Hezbollah. It wouldn't have happened. There would be peace in the Middle East, and Iran would be a big beneficiary of that peace. It'd be good. But all of these things that happened, and inflation would have never happened, and Afghanistan would have never happened. The worst withdrawal in history, I believe the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. In fact, that's what caused President Putin to go into Ukraine. When he looked at how incompetently that was handled, he looked at it and he said, man, they're incompetent. That was the most embarrassing day in the history of the United States of America. Airplanes taking off with many people sitting on the wings of the plane and the side of the plane and the wing, and you see them dropping off the planes at 3,000 feet. They thought it was their trip to freedom. There's never been anything like that, and I think there's no greater embarrassment. By the way, we lost 13 incredible soldiers. I got to know the families very well. Spent a lot of time with them 4 days ago in Arlington Cemetery. 3 years ago, they were celebrating 3 years, honoring their children. And yeah, that's right, they call them their children. They still call them, they always will call them their children. They're gone. And many of those people there should have never left from there. They should have left from Bagram, the big air base. But many of those people that were so badly hurt, they don't talk about them. No legs, no arms, obliteration of their face, their entire body, and nobody mentions that. We left Americans behind, large numbers. We left $85 billion worth of equipment behind because we took our military out first. A child would know you don't. You take your military out last. And just remember one final point on that, because it's a little bit different from our subject, but not really, because it's all about our country and common sense. But for 18 months, I spoke to the leader of the Taliban. The press was very upset that I spoke to him. His name is Abdul. I said, Abdul, don't do this, Abdul. Don't do this. But why, he said, do you send me a picture of my home? I said, Abdul, you're going to have to figure that one out for yourself. But don't do this, Abdul, because it's going to end badly for you. And for 18 months, we didn't have one soldier shot at or killed in Afghanistan. And then we took our soldiers out. We had a very, very disgraceful election. And this group came in and they didn't know what the hell they were doing, and they still don't. They've gotten worse. You know, with experience, you're supposed to get better. They got worse. They're worse now than they ever were. And we're going to turn our country around. We're going to become a major producer of rare earth minerals. We're going to create jobs and making it really, and us, truly self-reliant. Remember the rare earth, where we have to go to China. We have sites that are tied up with more than anybody else has. They're environmentally protected. We have sites that are phenomenal, everything you want in terms of rare earth, and we can't use them because of environmental protection. But we're going to end that very quickly as soon as I get to office. We will make housing much more affordable. As inflation is tamed, interest rates will dramatically fall. They'll be down very, very low. We'll get them down. We had them down to 2.4% and even lower than that for a period of time. Reducing mortgage rates is a big factor. We're going to get them back down to, we think, 3%, maybe even lower than that, saving the average home buyer thousands of dollars per year. They can now go out. Young people will be able to buy a home again and be a part of the American dream. We will eliminate regulations that drive up housing costs with the goal of cutting the cost of a new home in half. We think we can do that. The regulations alone cost 30%. Regulation costs 30% of a new home. And we will open up portions of federal land for large-scale housing construction. These zones will be ultra-low tax and ultra-low regulation. One of the great really small business job creation programs. It will be of all time. We're going to open up our country to building homes inexpensively so young people and other people can buy homes. You can't buy them anymore. Millions of Americans will take part in setting these safe and beautiful communities, reviving the frontier spirit, and really, as I said, reviving the American dream. It's about the American dream. It's all about the American dream. We don't talk about American dream with these people in office. They don't want to talk about the American dream because they're the exact opposite. They're the exact opposite. We also cannot ignore the impact that the flood of 21 million illegal aliens has had on driving up housing costs. That's why my plan will ban mortgages for illegal aliens in California. They're passing a law where they're going to give illegal aliens money to buy a house. But our soldiers, our veterans that are laying on the streets, they can't have them. You have soldiers right now laying on the streets of different cities, all Democrat run. They're laying on the streets in front of hotels, in some cases luxury hotels, and you have illegal immigrants coming in and living in those hotels and laughing at our soldiers as they walk by into a luxury lobby. Is there something wrong with that thinking? Is there something wrong with our country?
Yes.
If Kamala is allowed to continue to let our country be invaded, we will face a fiscal Armageddon. These migrants are consuming hundreds of billions of dollars in benefits. You saw in Colorado this week a group from Venezuela, rough ones. They took over large sections of a town, large sections of an area of Colorado, Aurora. Has anyone been there? I think you'd better stay away for a little while. They had AK-47s, the ultimate guns, AK-47s. They can blow lots of people away real fast. And the sheriff didn't want to touch them. Nobody wants to touch them. Sheriff, there's 18 Venezuelans attacking my building. Would you please come over and straighten out the situation? He's got a deputy. You know what they say? Well, no thanks, let's call in the military. They're taking over. And I said this 4 years ago when I realized they wanted open borders. And it's happened. It's happening now in Chicago. They're taking over sections of Chicago. What's happening in New York and Los Angeles and many other cities is not even describable. They're tough. They're tough and they're smart and they're vicious. Don't forget, they come from the prisons, and they're the bad criminals on the streets. Caracas, Venezuela, has almost no crime. Next year, I'm going to suggest that the Economic Club hold its meeting in Caracas because we'll be safer than we are in our country if they win. We'll be far safer. But crime in Venezuela is down 72% because they've taken all of their criminals off the streets. Not all of them. They still have some left, but they're coming in rapidly by bus and by plane. They're coming into our country, and we're dumping them in our country. And they say, if you come back, we will kill you. And they're not going back. We got them. But they're going back if I'm president, I guarantee you that. They're going back fast. And now Kamala wants to give them food stamps, housing assistance, welfare, Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and destroy all of those programs. You will destroy those programs. That is why I will ask Congress to pass legislation barring all taxpayer-funded benefits to illegal aliens. And by the way, when you do that, they won't come. They're coming now because they realize they've never seen wealth like this. They're getting things that they could never get. They're coming for that reason. If you stop that, you'll be dropping the flow by 80%. I think that they're coming because they're taken care of. Let's put them in a luxury. Let's put them in the Waldorf Astoria. That's a nice place. I will stop the invasion and send criminal illegal aliens back home. And when we do all of this, we will be so successful. We'll create America's own sovereign wealth fund to invest in great national endeavors for the benefit of all of the American people. Why don't we have a wealth fund? Other countries have wealth funds. We have nothing. We have nothing. We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund, or we can name it something different. I'll talk about it with Mr. Paulson, who's in the audience, and a lot of other friends of mine. And we'll name it something that's appropriate. Perhaps sovereign wealth fund wouldn't be appropriate, but it's going to be the same thing. We'll put tremendous amounts of money through all this money that will be taken in through tariffs and other intelligent things, and we'll have the greatest sovereign wealth fund of them all, and we should have, and that will be used to do things that will be great for our country, including to invest and wisely invest and build it up bigger and stronger and better than any place on earth. We will build extraordinary national development projects and everything from highways to airports and to transportation, infrastructure, all of the future. We'll be able to invest in state-of-the-art manufacturing hubs, advanced defense capabilities, cutting-edge medical research, and help save billions of dollars in preventing disease in the first place. And I'm very honored to have been endorsed last week by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. That was a great endorsement, and he's very much into helping people. He's very much into helping people. I've known him a long time. That was a great thing when he did that. That was not easy for a Kennedy to be endorsing a Republican. That was not easy. But these are not Democrats. These are radical left lunatics, and you can't let them run your country. We will invest in new and modern agricultural techniques so we can have safe, healthy, high-quality foods for our families. That's where Bobby is so interested, foods. He says we're putting a lot of bad foods in our body. You look at other countries which do far less, and they're actually much healthier than we are. This wealth fund will return a gigantic profit, which will help pay down national debt. We're going to work on national debt very strongly, by the way. We're going to have so much money coming in. We're going to work on national debt. We're at close to $36 trillion right now. We're going to work on getting it down. And it is many of the people in this room who will be helping to advise and recommend investments for this fund. This is how we will end the era of inflation, mayhem, and misery under Kamala Harris, the worst vice president in the history of our country, and unleash a new era of safety, prosperity, and success for our workers, our families, and our businesses. And I've done it before. We did a great job, and now we really know our job well. I know the smartest, the best people. We have the best people. We have people that many in this room, they know exactly what we want to do. You know, it's interesting having experience because I won an election. I went to Washington. I was only in Washington 17 times. I never stayed over. That's according to the fake news, but I think they're right. But I got to know Washington well. And I know the smart ones and the dumb ones. I know the ones that can help make us great and the ones that can only take us into bad territory. I got to know a lot of people, probably as many as anybody at that level. And we have incredible talent, and we're going to be using that talent. We had some incredible talent, much of it sitting up here and sitting down here. They did a great job on trade. Bob Lighthizer, so many other people did such a great job. We rebuilt our military. We rebuilt our entire military, did a great job. We have great generals, not the television generals, not the generals that took us out of Afghanistan in 24 hours and left that horrible situation, but we have great generals. We defeated ISIS. It was supposed to take 5 years. It took me 4 weeks. 4 weeks. Our generals did a great job. We have great people in our military, and our military is not woke. Believe me, you couldn't get these guys to be woke. Some of the guys on top are woke, but those aren't the ones that are great. So we're going to do things that we didn't do even the first time. We had a great presidency. There was an article written the other day that the Trump presidency was a great presidency. with victory on November 5th, which will go down as the most important day in the history of our country. Inflation will be gone. Our energy will be unleashed. Our economy will be set free. Our sovereignty will be restored. Our citizens will thrive. Growth will come roaring back, and America's future will be brighter than ever before. So I want to thank you all. This has been a lovely experience. It was years ago that I was here. We talked about what we were going to do, and we did just about everything we said. And if you'd like, we'll take a few questions, Bob.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Trump.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It'll be awesome if he takes a couple questions here.
Thank you very much. And we're now moving, as promised, to the question and answer portion of the program. Our four very able questioners today are H. Rajan Cohen, the Senior Chair of Sullivan and Cromwell, Sandra Gerber, Founding and Managing Partner, CEO and CIO of Hudson Bay Capital, Mr. John Paulson, founder of Paulson & Company, and Rashma Sanjani, founder and CEO of Girls Who Code and Moms First. We're going to go in alphabetical order, and therefore, Raj, you have the first question.
Thank you, Bob, and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
I would like to ask about the United States economic sanctions programs. These programs have been used, as you well know, to advance our national security interests, our foreign policy objectives, but they also have economic implications. And the most recent was the program against Russia in response to their invasion of Ukraine, where for once we got the support of all our allies. So my specific question is, would you strengthen or modify any of these economic sanctions programs, particularly Russia, including the pipeline you mentioned?
Well, it's a great question. The problem with what we have with sanctions, and I was a user of sanctions, but I'd put them on and take them off as quickly as possible because ultimately it kills your dollar and it kills everything the dollar represents, and we have to continue to have that be the world currency. I think it's important. I think it would be losing a war. If we lost the dollar as the world currency, I think that would be the equivalent of losing a war. That would make us a third world country, and we can't let it happen. So I use sanctions very powerfully against countries that deserve it, and then I take them off. Because look, you're losing Iran, you're losing Russia. China is out there trying to get their currency to be the dominant currency, as you know better than anybody. All of these things are happening. You're losing so many countries because there's so much conflict with all of these countries that you're going to lose that, and we can't lose that. So I want to use sanctions as little as possible. One of the things that we have with tariffs is that I'll say to them, you don't honor the dollar as your world currency. Is that right? You're not going to do it? No, we're not. I said, that's okay. I'm going to put tariffs all over your product. And they're going to say, sir, we'd love to honor the dollar as the world currency. You know, tariffs, in addition to monetary and the money that we'll take in, which will be bigger than you've ever seen in this country before, gives you tremendous political power for something like that, as an example. I stopped wars with the threat of tariffs. I stopped wars with two countries that mattered a lot. A lot of people would have been killed, and I threatened tariffs coming into the United States if they don't make peace. And we made we didn't have conflicts like you have right now. We had very intelligent people. But the biggest threat you have is you lose that currency, and we have lost something that you'll never get back. And we can keep it if we're smart, but they use it too much, and then they just forget about it. And these countries like Russia, it's going out now and doing its own thing, and you know, they're going out bragging about how they don't need us anymore, et cetera, et cetera. The sad part about Russia is that Ukraine would have never happened if I was president, so we wouldn't really have to be talking about sanctions. But it did happen. And one of the things I'm going to do, a little bit relevant to your question, is if we win, I believe I can settle that war while I'm president-elect. Before I ever get into office, I can get that war settled and get that war stopped, because it's a horrible, horrible war. And far more people are killed in Ukraine, far more people than you're realizing. They'll knock down this massive building, amazing, the size of these buildings, they'll knock it down. They'll say nobody was injured. No, a lot of people were killed. The real numbers are far greater than what people are looking at. So I think it's a very important thing. Sanctions have to be used very judiciously, and you can win. We have things much more powerful, actually, than sanctions. We have trade, but we cannot lose our dollar standard. Very important. Thank you very much.
Great. Sander?
Thank you, Mr. President, for all the details on your economic policy. As you alluded to, tariffs are the other side of sanctions. And given that China is our major trading partner with our largest imbalance and possibly our chief national security threat to the United States, how can we better institutionalize trade policy and national security policy to be coordinated?
So I had a great relationship with President Xi of China, really very close relationship. Now, look, he likes China, I like us, but I don't want to sound foolish. He was my dear, dear friend. He's a tough guy. He's a fierce person. I say very smart. You know, when you say he's smart, the fake news goes crazy. He said President Xi is smart. And I say, yeah, well, he controls 1.4 billion people with an iron fist. He's smart. But we had a very good relationship with China until COVID. And when that came in, it was a whole different ballgame as far as I was concerned. You know, we made a great China trade deal, maybe better than the USMCA, and I'd never talk about it because what happened with COVID for the whole world, $60 trillion and, you know, deaths, 70 million, 60, nobody even knows how many deaths. And it all came out of Wuhan. So it changed my relationship. But I think I'll have a great relationship with China. I had one before. And they respected us, but they respected us because they no longer thought we were fools. They used to think we were fools because we built China. They would take over $500 billion a year and use it for their military and other things. And we got nothing out of that. We got some cheap product. You can buy 19 pencils instead of 2. Who the hell cares? You can buy 16 dolls for your daughter instead of 2 nice dolls. And we got very little out of that relationship. They got a tremendous military power, and they still have it today. So, but I believe we will have a very good relationship with China and with a lot of other countries that we're not getting along with too well today. And things are going to straighten out. We're going to get them straightened out very quickly. Very important that we get along with the rest of the world. You know, we have things today called nuclear weapons. I rebuilt our whole military, including our nuclear capability. And so I got very familiar with it. And, you know, I say this often because I had an uncle who was the longest serving, I believe the longest serving, I was told that by MIT. But he was there 39, I guess, or 41 years, longest serving professor in the history of MIT. And nuclear was something he knew a lot about. And we used to talk about it. I'd say, Uncle John, there's no way. He was telling me about this incredible power that was being unleashed potentially. And I say, Uncle John, you could never. And you know what? He was very modest because I've seen the destructive capability. And this world is going to have to get along because if that's ever unleashed, we already have too many countries that have at least remnants of it, some of it. But probably 5 countries, if you think. And Kim Jong-un, when I went to the White House after winning in 2016, I sat with President Obama, which is a ritual. And you sit and you talk. And I said, what's the biggest problem? He said, North Korea is the biggest problem. I don't think it's solvable. I said, have you tried calling him or talking to him? And actually, the answer was yes, and he wasn't responded to. But I did, and we were very safe. It started off a little rocky, if you remember. Little Rocket Man, I called him, and he called me things too. He's got a red button on his desk. I said, I have a bigger red button, and my red button works. I said, and then it started getting a little nicer, and then one day I got a call that they'd like to meet, and it was a great thing. We had a great meeting. We had 2 meetings, actually 2 great meetings, summits, and we had no problem with them. Now they have a problem because they're not liking this administration. They don't respect this administration at all. So we have to get along. We have to get along. We can't have World War III. You're going to end up in World War III, just like you You should have never had Russia go in. It would have never happened if a competent person led us. It would have never happened. He led them into it. And I'm not blaming Biden. But you know what? What he was saying was exactly the wrong thing. I said, we're going to have an invasion because of a lot of the rhetoric. It was stupid rhetoric. But it would have never happened. Not only for that reason, oil was down low. You know, oil was almost at $100 a barrel. So Putin is one of the only people. I mean, nothing's easy in life. But Putin at $100 a barrel, war works. At $40 a barrel, it didn't work at all. So we're going to get back to a intelligently run place, a place where other countries aren't using the word nuclear. That word was never talked about because I knew the power of it. And I talked to Putin about it. I talked to President Xi about it. I think we were going to do, you remember the talk where we were going to reduce nuclear capability substantially. All three of us, we're going to start it. We're going to reduce very substantially. And then we had the election. And after the election, they didn't talk about that or anything else, frankly. But we have to be very, very careful because the destructive capability of nuclear, when people talk about global warming, I say the ocean is going to go down 1/100th of an inch within the next 400 years. That's not our problem. Our problem is nuclear warming, and we better be smart, and we better have smart people at the top that know how to deal, because these people don't know how to deal. Putin came out today, he endorsed Kamala, and I didn't know, was I supposed to call him up and say, thank you very much, I appreciate it. But he endorsed Kamala. I have a feeling, I don't know. I don't know exactly what to say about that. I don't know if I'm insulted or he did me a favor. But we have to get along with the world. We can't have war because the destructive capability, you can be the head of the biggest bank wherever the hell Jamie is sitting. You can be the head of the biggest bank in the world, and a couple of nukes and your bank doesn't mean a thing. You gotta get along. This is such an important job. It's a dangerous job too. Very dangerous job. If you look at statistically, being president is very dangerous. That throbbing feeling I have. Oh, that throbbing feeling. No, it's a very dangerous job, and you have to do it right. And if you don't do it right, bad things will happen to the world. Things like you've never seen before. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Paulson behind me to your right, Mr. President.
Hi, John.
First, let me thank you for your presentation today. President Trump, in the last fiscal year, the fiscal deficit under the Biden administration was approximately $2 trillion. Under the policies you've announced, the deficit would come down from items such as increased revenues from tariffs, as well as eliminating the tax incentives for the Green New Deal. These gains would be mitigated by decreases in revenues from policies such as no tax on tips. Overall, what do you estimate will be the impact of the fiscal deficit from your policies?
Well, we just hit record highs at numbers that nobody ever thought possible. You're right, it's over $2 trillion. Nobody thought that was a number that was, I mean, you could go back 4 years, nobody thought a number like that would be possible. It's crazy, it's just horrible, actually. But yeah, we're $2 trillion, and I view it as profit and loss to a certain extent. A lot of people say, oh, it's trade. You know, you have many people say trade deficits don't matter. I think they matter a lot. We're going to have tremendous growth. What I'm talking about is all about growth. The tax is relatively minor compared to the growth. We're going to make our money back on growth. We're going to also, we're going to grow like nobody's ever grown before. I think if this all works out, you're going to have the auto industry come back to America. Right now, China is building 2 auto factories in Mexico, massive auto factories. And they think they're going to make their cars in Mexico and send them back into the United States with no tax. It's not going to happen. Under this administration, it's going to happen. And they wanted to do that during my administration. I said, if you do it, we're going to put a 200% tariff on every car, and you'll never be able to see it. There will never be one car coming across our border. And if I would have let them do it, we would have had these two factories. Well, now they're building massive factories, more than two, and they're going to kill Detroit. And the head of the union, the United Auto Workers in Detroit, has done a terrible, terrible job, just a terrible job. But we're going to bring tremendous growth back. And remember, we're also taking in a certain percentage. I won't name the percentage today, but it'll be a certain tariff percentage, which will be higher than people had heard in the past. And we will be bringing in billions and billions of dollars, which will directly reduce our deficits. Okay, thank you very much. Good job you've done, by the way. Very good.
Thank you. And the final question, Resma, is to you.
Thank you. President Trump, you talked about how the increase in the price of food, gas, and rent is hurting families. But the real cost that's breaking families' backs and preventing women from participating in the workforce is childcare. Childcare is now more expensive than rent for working families and is costing the economy more than $122 billion a year, making it one of the most urgent economic issues that is facing our country. In fact, the cost of childcare is outpacing the cost of inflation, with the majority of American families of young children spending more than 20% of their income on childcare. One thing that Democrats and Republicans have in common is that both parties talk a lot about what they're going to do to address the childcare crisis, but neither party has delivered meaningful change. If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. You know, I was we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, childcare is childcare. There's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax when they send product into our country. Those numbers are so much bigger than any numbers that we're talking about, including childcare, that it's going to take care. We're going to have, I look forward to having no deficits within a fairly short period of time, coupled with the reductions that I told you about on waste and fraud and all of the other things that are going on in our country. Because I have to stay with childcare. I want to stay with childcare, but those numbers are small relative to the kind of economic numbers that I'm talking about, including growth, but growth also headed up by what the plan is that I just told you about. We're going to be getting in trillions of dollars, and as much as childcare is talked about as being expensive, it's relatively speaking not very expensive compared to the kind of numbers we'll be taking in. We're going to make this into an incredible country that can afford to take care of its people, and then we'll worry about the rest of the world. Let's help other people. But we're going to take care of our country first. This is about America first. It's about make America great again. We have to do it because right now we're a failing nation. So we'll take care of it. Thank you. Very good question. Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you very much, Mr. Trump. It's great that you accepted our invitation to be with us today. Thank you, Raj, Sander, John, and Reshma, for your questions. The president is now going to be leaving the building, and so we want to all stay seated while he and his team leave. But as he leaves, let's all say thank you one more time for him accepting our invitation to be here today.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a great honor.
All right, so Trump talked for, looks like about, let's call it a little over 2 hours, or right about 2 hours. And I cannot believe that this man spoke for that period of time and he didn't talk about Project 2025. He missed a great opportunity to talk about Project 2025. And he also did talk about baby disposal. How did he just not talk about the two most important issues to Americans? Project 2025 and baby disposal and racism and blah, blah. No, this man talked about real issues. This man talked about what really matters to America. I saw it many times in the comments. Many of you were saying you couldn't even possibly imagine Kamala Harris having those conversations or having that sort of platform. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. Anyone who saw that and thinks that she could stand up there and answer those questions intelligently, you're kidding yourself. Somebody had put in the comments that this was the end right here. Anybody who watches that, of course they're not going to talk about it. So just to run over a couple of these things pretty quickly, and one of them maybe take a little bit of time. Obviously, he talked about drill, baby, drill. Let me back up. If you weren't following along or don't understand how all of these things interlock, then you're missing how the media is basically lying to you. Because each one of these things in and of itself may not make the big difference, may not be the big deal. But sort of like a building a house, you put all these things together and they interlock, even down to that last question about childcare. So he talked about drill, baby, drill. He talked about lower taxes across the board. He talked about lowering the corporate income tax rate down to 15. He talked about keeping the Trump tax cuts. Said no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. All that stuff of no tax, no tax, no tax, together, what does that mean? I hope you understand what that means is more money in your pocket. More money for you to spend. You're not going to hoard it in a box in the garage or under your mattress. You're going to put more money into the economy. If you're not paying it to the government, you're going to be using that money. You'll go out to dinner. You'll maybe move into a different apartment. You'll buy stuff. You'll take vacations. You'll be contributing to America. Nobody on the left ever talks about that. All they're worried about is, oh my God, if he cuts taxes, we're not going to be able to pay for this or that. That's the whole idea. Then, now that you've got that in your mind, you're like, whoa, wait a second. If he cuts all these taxes and the rich aren't paying as much and blah, 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 how do we do what we need to do? Oh, I'll tell you how. Elon, come on over. Get in here and start axing these. Axing. Not asking, axing. Start axing some of these departments that are just completely bloated. One of the reasons why we can't have a balanced budget is because we don't even know who's where. We're losing trillions of dollars. I go back to that story. The military lost trillions of dollars. So the first thing Elon would have to do in terms of looking at this audit of accountability is saying, okay, how much are we bringing in? How much are we spending? And what are we spending it on? Pretty much like you would do in your own household budget. Hey, honey, we brought in this much money this month. This is our weekly paycheck. We're spending this much to live. Now we need to know what we're spending. We're spending on groceries. We're spending on gas. We're spending on movies. We go out to dinner. Okay, so I see all the things we're spending on. And if this was a personal account, it'd be like, well, we're losing money. See, the government loses money and they don't care. They continually spend, because you're going to pay for it. So they just keep spending. Imagine if we had a balanced budget. Oh, Lord, if we had a balanced budget and we knew exactly that this is how much you're going to get. That's it. You're not getting anything because your department's no longer going to be here. So you got to get out. Sorry. Here's your severance pay. You're done. What do you do here? Oh, I make shrimp run on treadmills. You're done. And you start putting all this money back and you're like, wow, this is looking pretty good. It's all interlocking. I don't need as much of your tax money if I'm not spending as much on the back end. Then he talked about the capital gains and how, one of the things I wish that they would talk about more is explain to people how capital gains works. And what exactly does that mean? And basically unrealized income. I kind of alluded to that before the show began so that you understand there's no reason to tax people at that level. Oh, they need to pay their fair share, which is a complete unicorn. Nobody can ever define what a fair share is. It doesn't exist. It's to make commies and socialists and Marxists and stupid people with blue hair think that they're going after the big bad rich man. You don't understand the entire balance of an economy. You can't balance your checkbook in your own home. And you expect people to understand government budgetary needs? It's not going to happen. Somebody in his department, just like Elon did with Twitter when he bought it, said, how much are we spending? What do you do here? You no longer work here. I'm cutting all this money. I can make do with 30% of the staff I had. Well, that's not fair. What do you mean fair? Go get another job that'll pay you to do what you want to do. And I'll help you find that job. But here, you can't do it. Same thing with the government. So you do what here? Well, maybe we don't need you, but maybe we can help you get placed in another company. Continuing with that, he didn't, and nobody has really explained tariffs to you. Because tariffs is like this big bad word where a lot of people think you're going to pay more for goods. Let me explain that to you for a second. So, this is what he was talking about when he mentioned the McKinley tariff issue. And you're going to have libnuts and the media screaming about, oh my God, he heralded the McKinley tariffs. And until right now, you probably didn't know what the McKinley tariffs are. So when they spew their pablum at you tonight, you're not going to know. And they're like, oh yeah, well, everybody hated what McKinley did. Wait a second. So, the Tariff Act of 1890, and I could not believe that he remembered the year, because I didn't remember the year, he raised the average duty on imports to almost 50%, an increase designed protectionism to protect domestic industries and workers from foreign competition. Oh, yeah, but if you make stuff more expensive because the tariff, means, we're having to pay more. Yes, you are. When they say it on TV tonight, understand that by putting tariffs on other countries and what they bring into America, you are going to pay more. Oh my God, Barry, that's awful. Wait. Go back to the first building block. No tax on tips. Oh, yeah, you got more money. Lower interest rate. Oh, my mortgage isn't that high. And conversely, if your landlord now pays less on his mortgage for the property, your rent also lower. You got more money. They're stacking it. You're not understanding. It goes all the way through. A tariff may mean if you want to buy something from China, it's going to cost more, but you're also going to have the option of buying something American or paying a little bit more for that thing from China, but at the same time, because you're going to pay less in taxes, and you're going to have the tax rate down, and you're not going to pay capital gains. And shush, excuse me 1 second, because he's barking here. He hears the lawn guy. My pit bull chihuahua stays in here with me, and the lawn guys are outside, and he's losing it. All right, so let me go back to that. You're going to pay more, but you have more income. Just think about it this way. If everything stayed the same and you got a 28 to 30% raise, your job is, you're making money. Do you still keep getting the Kraft macaroni and cheese? Or maybe do you go to Whole Foods and buy the prepared macaroni and cheese? Why? Because I can afford it. I can buy it pre-prepared. I can go out to dinner with my wife because I've got more money. The tariff doesn't bother me. I'm sorry he's barking. He hates the long guy. It all stacks on top of each other. Meanwhile, you're forcing these companies across the pond to basically stop competing with American companies, and you're allowing American companies to prosper. So now your bakery, because they're getting stuff in America and they're putting together goods here, they can then not charge as much because they're buying American products because they can afford to. See how it's all working? And then you want to layer something else on this. When you layer the next thing is when you start talking about energy abundance, which is what he said. Energy abundance means what? Oh, lower gas prices. So you're paying less to drive around means you have more money, which means you can afford to pay a little bit more for something from China if you so want to. But you're self-sufficient because you're paying less taxes, you're paying less for gas. Oh, wait a second. Those trucks that bring the groceries to the grocery store, they're doing better, so the grocery store is lowering their prices. Wow, wait a second. So I've got to pay more for this trinket from China, but at the same time, I'm making 25 to 35% more take-home money. Because I don't have to pay as much taxes to basically fund the government. I don't know why they don't break it down so people can understand it that way. What else did he say? He was talking about what happened to Russia and war and how it was fun and it was made a lot more sense when oil was $100 a barrel more, and now it's dropped down to 40. If you can't afford it, you don't go fighting. Basically, if you can't beat up the guy next door, you don't go swinging a punch. You just don't do it. So the way, and when people say peace through strength, what they're really meaning behind it is peace through prosperity. Why do people go to wars? Except for the nuts over there in the Middle East who base it on ideology. The people who are dangerous are the ones who want to go to war based on ideology because you're an infidel. We're going to have to always watch out for them, but the way to stop them is to take their money away. And what did Biden do? He gave them money. You don't give money to the nuts. They're always going to be nuts. They're nuts today, they're going to be nuts tomorrow. It's in the Bible. It ain't going to happen. They hate each other. It's not about doing better. It's about eliminating people they don't like. The other countries are like, hey, let's go to war because it might be more prosperous. Do you even know what's going on between Zelensky and Putin? What they're actually fighting about? Do you understand why Putin hasn't gone further into their country? You know they're fighting over a sliver here. A sliver of land that he finds to be more beneficial to him, and the other guy, I don't know what he's fighting over. It's usually about money and power. There's a reason why, to date, as of so far, China hasn't launched anything at us. Because they also know we're going to punch you back in the face. So unless you want to have this reciprocal boom, 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 peace through strength works. Now let's go ahead and get down to the economics of things. Let's make some money. I can keep you happy. I'm going to charge you a 30 or 40% tariff, but we're going to make sure that you're taken care of and you're not going to go boom, boom. Right? That's why when he says, I was friends with Xi and I was friends with Rocket Man, he didn't mean like friends were all, let's go here, let's go have a beer. He means like we understood each other. Basically, don't F up and you won't find out. And now, since we've got that out the way, we both know not to F up and find out with each other. Now let's figure out where our commonality is. Let's see, what do you want? Well, we'd like more electricity. Okay, if you need more electricity, then you need more oil, right? Right. Okay, let's see who can get you the oil you need, Rocket Man. Because you can't do anything without the oil because you need food and everything else. The problem that our government has right now, that Dementia Joe and Kamala Harris and Obama is that they subscribe to this world global thing because these other countries can't survive and do what they want if America isn't funding them. They need America and you and me to give our dollars away. Look at the budget. Look how much we fund these other countries, NATO and everything else. Remember I told you yesterday, NATO, he's like, you owe me. Yeah, I've lent you money, United States, we've lent you money for decades and you're not paying us. It's time to pay the piper. Well, if you collect money from someone who owes you money, then that means you have money in your pocket to spend on veterans, child care, which he just said. See, the problem with America right now is we don't have the money. We're broke. We're broke because we're funding all this stupid stuff. This isn't rocket scientists. I'm serious. It's not as complex as they try to make it. If you just sit back and think and understand, as I said, just remember my analogy here, how you stack everything. Watch what happens tonight on the news, or even like right now. The media is going to say Trump's going to try McKinley-style tariffs that don't work. And then they'll stop right there. Everybody says McKinleyan types tariffs are bad for the economy. Why? No, you're not going to get that. It's going to make goods cost more, and then the poor people end up paying it. Yeah, you're right. What's the next part? See, the tariffs don't work if you're putting tariffs on people and you're overtaxing them and their goods and services that they pay for are too expensive. That's why tariffs don't work. You're not giving anybody any come on this. There's no alternative. Wow, my stereo costs 50% more. My rent costs $300-400 more. My mortgage costs... Well, where's the give and take here? I'll gladly pay more for a cell phone. I'll go see right now. I will go see Apple and say, let me update. I'm going to take the newest phone. Or I don't use Apple. I use Android. But here, listen. Oh, does it cost $900? Here you go. I'll pay the tariff. You know why? Because I'm not paying 30% more in taxes. That concept is what they steal from the American public. They don't tell you that. It all has to work together. It all interlocks. And they only tell you this piece. They won't tell you, hey, are you going to tell them about the reduced taxes and how they'll be able to afford a little bit more? Because just think, I'll end it with this. If you had today 25 to 30% more of your money in your bank account, what would you do with it? Because that's what Trump is saying. I'm going to reduce the taxes. I'm going to do no tax on tips, no tax on Social Security. We're going to bring capital gains down to 15% for everybody, not just the people making $100 million. Now everybody's sitting on more money. Okay, what's the trade-off? You're going to have to pay a little bit more for stuff from China. I'm good with that. Because also my rent got reduced. And my gas is cheaper. And oh my God, my food is cheaper. So I don't give a crap about this extra cost from China, because then again, I could go look at a store that's doing the same thing in America, because one of the things he mentioned again was increasing manufacturing and production in America. When's the last time you've heard somebody say that we want to increase production here in America? Once you put all that together and understand how it all works in cohesion, that it's not just an island of tariffs, that it's involved other stuff getting cheaper. They never tell you that. They never mention to you, oh, Trump wants to do this and do that. Okay, so yeah, I do understand things may become more expensive. I gotcha. Well, if things are more expensive, it's basically a tax on the poor. Okay. Yeah, you're right. If I have to pay more for this or that, it's a tax. Sort of like what you've done to us with the gas and food prices and the interest rates, right? Same thing. Except He wants you to have more money in your pocket. You can take away from my little lesson here and hope you understand, but that's the difference, is that they don't tell you the other side of the story. They forget that. They never discuss it. Yeah, then if you did have more money, you could make more MAGA babies. But oh my God, they don't want that. You need to go to the big blue RV. Don't be burdened. You got to be unburdened by what was. Take that thing out of there. Oh, and imagine not having to pay gazillions for millions of newcomers. Elon, can you go ahead and make sure this is taken care of, because we're not spending that money either. Not going to do computer issues today. We'll just aggravate me. I know what you mean. You always information is spot on, Barry. I try to, because this is just elementary when you think about it. I buy and sell houses. I understand that. I've been involved in advertising. I know business to a certain extent, and it always bothers me because they never tell people the entire story. If they went on MSNBC tonight and just said, yes, the tariffs are going to cause you to pay more, but you're going to pay less taxes, so you'll have more money in your pocket. How many people would go, well, I'm good with that. If the difference in what I'll have to pay extra for the same stuff is given to me, then I'm good with it. Oh, by the way, I used the wrong term. I'm sorry. It's not given to you. It's not taken from you. It's already your money. See, they've tricked people for years and years and years, and they keep calling it a tax refund. Every April, you get a tax refund. No, it's not a tax refund. You're giving me back my money with no interest. You've taken my money every single paycheck for 52 paychecks, or 25 if you're every bi-weekly, or 12 if you're monthly. You've taken that money every single month and do whatever you want with it, interest-free. And then when I come calling on April 15th and I have to prove that you owe me money, you give me back my money and you deem it a refund. If I didn't like this phone and I went back to the store and I said I need a refund for it, what's the first thing they ask you for? What's the first thing anyone asks you for when you go back to a store and you want a refund? You got a receipt? Oh, I need a receipt for that? Yeah, barcode something. Show me your receipt that you bought it. Okay. You get a receipt from the government every week? I don't know. I know you pick up a check, and on that check it says FICA and other stuff that you don't know what the hell that means, but it's not a receipt. You get a W-2, it just tells you how much they took from you, and then you got to wait a year. A year. April 15th. Okay, in April I'm going to get this check back from the government. Would you lend a friend of yours that you kind of know but don't really like a couple grand for a year with no interest? Well, that's what you're doing with the federal government. Every single week, every single pay period, you are giving or allowing them to take your money every single week for a year. And then you have to justify whether or not they have to pay you back. Just imagine that. You give somebody a loan and they're like, well, you got to prove to me I need to pay you this money back. So fill out all these forms. And if I look at these forms and I don't like them, I may send some guys to your house because, we're not really sure you deserve this money back. You haven't itemized every single reason why I should pay you back. It is the worst transaction known to commerce. They can completely twisted it to make you think you have a debt. And that's why the globalists and the commie news stations continue to talk this way because they need you to think that you owe the government. You owe, their plans. You owe it. You gotta pay it. And then, if you don't pay it, you go away. And all Trump is saying is, you can have a lot less of an obligation to the government. You don't have to pay as much. We're going to be good. We're going to raise some money. We're going to be able to pay for childcare and everything else because these companies in China and everywhere else, Taiwan, they're going to have to pay more. And you're going to have to pay a little bit more, but you're going to have more of your own money in your pocketbook. That's the reason why it's different with the Democrats. They don't want you to have more money in your pocketbook. That's just it. I would love for them to abolish it. Trump wants to get rid of income tax. Yeah, refund without interest. Funny how that works for them, but not for us. Yeah. He won't shut up. I'm sorry. The long guys out there. A 4.5 pound package of ground beef is now $23. Unbelievable. But would you rather get high than eat? Oh, God, that's funny. Now, see, listen. This here, it says fire all the IRS workers that they hired. So they brought in all these people, these 87,000 people, and they gave them jobs. Those are going to be the first people that more than likely Elon Musk would walk in and go, you're done. Just right off the bat, you're done. Because what should be unburdened, Kamala, is basically throwing people in jail who didn't pay their taxes. Maybe these people needed to put the money into someone's school, or their car broke down, or whatever. And now I don't have enough to pay the government. All right, so you get to go to jail. What? Okay, you can make a plan, and we'll go ahead and give you some sort of repayment plan. But what we're going to do is make sure you never are able to borrow any other money to do anything else in your life for about 7 to 10 years. Because we're going to put an IRS lien on your property and everything you own. We're going to levy your bank account to make sure we get the money. And then, of course, whenever you go to get credit, the people are going to pull your credit, and it's going to say IRS lien, and they're going to treat you like you got a disease. Why is that? Why would your government put you in a position where you're treated like you got the pandemic stuff? Nobody wants to touch you. They run your credit. Oh, hey, you got an IRS lien, and I ain't lending you a buck. They destroy you. Midas quiet. In addition to that, I'm going to close with this because I got to go take care of him and the long guy. You notice, sort of like Switzerland, when that guy Adolf is doing all that crazy stuff over there, and Mussolini, you can insert any dictator name there. Mussolini, Adolf, Attila the Hun, if he was around, Ayatollah Asahola, any one of these guys. You notice what they never, ever, ever mess with? It was like Adolf had a map, and he would go across Europe, and he got to Switzerland, and he would just go around it. Let's leave Switzerland alone. Because that's where the money is. They don't mess with the stuff that regards their money. Hence, the same thing here in the United States. I hear Elizabeth Warren talking about the big bad companies. I hear Kamala Harris talking about the price gouging. I hear everybody talking about the stuff but they never hear them talk about this. And every single one of you are going to know this. You're going to go, oh yeah. When's the last time you've heard anybody talk about, maybe we should do away with these credit bureaus? These guys that keep this stuff on you that you don't really know, and sometimes 5-6 years later they might give you a call because they found out you just did something, you got a new job, want to talk to you, and you're like, I didn't have a JCPenney account. Oh, you did way back, and we bought the debt, and now we're coming out. Well, I didn't. What? Huh? Oh, and your score that allows you to get that mortgage, well, your score isn't high enough for you to get this or that. You can't get a car. Your score is messed up. What score? My wife and I just bought new cars. And we walked in. That's the first thing they do. Let's see what the computer says. Computer says, boom. Okay, you're good. You can have it. And I asked the finance guy, I said, let me ask you a question. What happens if you do the little keystrokes and the big bad mirror on the wall comes up and goes, oh, hell no. We can't give this person a car. Even if this person has cash and has been working for 2 years and blah, 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 because the computer said, mirror, mirror on the wall, does Barry get a car or nothing at all? Barry gets nothing at all. Oh, crap. Some computer screen said, nope, go away. You don't get the car today. You hear anybody, any governmental official saying we should do away with this agencies, these three, TransUnion, Experian, and what's the other one? I forget what the third one is. Well, why are these three agencies in charge of what you can do with your finances, even if you got the money? Never hear anybody talking about that. Biggest scam out there, as far as I'm concerned. Probably some of you guys know as well. It said my place was valued at 130. Yeah, FICO scores. The math ain't mathin'. Exactly, FICO scores. Who made that? Who decided that we're going to assign you a score to see your worthiness? You know, I had an employee once, and the guy was really, really hard working. We paid him very well. He was one of our carpenters when we were fixing up houses. And this guy busted his butt, showed up every day, was there for 2 years. Before that, he worked with another construction company, made good money. He was a tradesman. And I'm like, dude, your truck's falling apart. Yeah, I went and they wouldn't finance me. I'm like, what do you mean they wouldn't finance you? Well, blah, 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 blah. Down here, luckily, in South Florida, I don't know where you live, we have these places called buy here, pay here. I've never seen it anywhere else. I lived in Connecticut, lived in Myrtle Beach, and buy here, pay here. What the hell is that? Well, if you come in with a certain amount of down payment, we'll finance you ourselves. You can have the car and then, pay us off every 2 weeks. And if you don't pay, then we come get you. And we don't even report to credit. I'm like, seriously? Help the dude buy a truck? Home run. Home run. Understand what's being talked about and how it all ties together. Then if you truly do that, if you truly, trolls, you too, if you understand how all this stuff stacks and ties in together, you will see that there is really only one choice for you to make. That's it. That's the answer to the entire thing. If you understand that you're being lied to, I guess that would be the thing I would say. If you know for sure that at this point, these people are trying to lie to as many people as they possibly can to make it seem like the big, bad, white, rich guys are really the ones that are, they're looking to hurt you, when it's not true whatsoever. So let me go ahead and thank all the people who've been involved in doing some donations today. I love you guys for this. Edwin Mendez, my 50th show, Bear. You got your own front row armchair quarterback. Thank you very much. Are you going to post a link for part 2 town? Yep, as soon as I go have some lunch and find out why this dog's still barking, I will post a link for the 9 o'clock show. And just to let you know, if for some reason Hannity doesn't do it, I'll have another show prepared. So it'll be a late show. 8:30 will be the check-in time. Thank you, Barry and Ashley, for your hard work. Yes, thank you very much. Chris, Papa Barry, what emergency food supply do you use? I think Rob, she's going to do a show on it. She's going to join me on a show because she was the one who set it up. I believe it was Patriot Supply. Don't quote me on it, but they're not a sponsor, not getting paid yet. But I believe it was Patriot Supply. Watch the Harris live stream, 270. Barry show 4975. I think we had up to 9,000 today. John Zeller, thank you very much. Zelda, ZAR, I'm not sure what currency that is, but whatever it is, thank you very much. Great job, Mr. Kine. We appreciate you and your channel. Keep rolling. Thank you very much, Big Al. Lisa, thank you. Anthony Solomon, yes, I did get your email. Didn't have a chance to reply, but I shall. I'm surviving off of $12.97 a month, Carlisle says. That's hard. That's hard. Depending on where you live, that could be very hard. Mowers Cat, Dems vote for Dems. They then flee only to move to Republican states and then vote for the same policies they fled from. Makes no sense. Oh, wow. Thank you, Faith Taylor. Thank you very much. Patriots, you have a duty and a responsibility to vote. It is your duty. Get a sample ballot on your state. Pay attention all the way to school board. Go all the way to dog catcher. Everybody who's got some authority over your life, make sure you vote red. Hello, just another knucklehead. Trump, financial and business rock star. He is. Kamala couldn't have done what you saw today. Joe Russo, thank you. Josh, thank you. Art Anthill, galactic difference between these two candidates. It is. It truly is a galactic difference. And you'd have to be an absolute moron not to see that. Donna, I'm $7 in my account and waiting for my new credit card. Another day older and deeper in debt. Johnny Cash. Knitting Turnpike, thank you very for all you do. I just started watching, but I'm enjoying you putting all this together for us. Thank you very much. Mark Cologne, thank you. Elia Arugelo, thank you. Barbara Farley, thank you as well. Vanessa Dominic, very excellent show, clear and explicit. Thank you very much. Lori Solari, Anna Romeroy, if Democrats know they'll lose to Trump, you said Biden would resign and Kamala will become president. Is this without an election and potentially extending her term for 4 to 8 years, feeling hopeless? No. They don't need an election to install her as president. If he resigns, dies, anything, she becomes the president. However, she still has to be reelected. You don't get to just stay for another 4 years because the other guy, didn't make it. Just remember, like what happened with JFK. JFK assassinated. Lyndon Johnson became president. He had to run again if he wanted to stay as president. Barry, last question regarding child care. Where do you think that falls on the list for voters? Women? I think women who want to have kids, I think it's a big priority. I mean, not the ones who decide that they want to go through the baby disposal business, but think about this. Maybe that could be a reason for a woman to keep her child. I don't know all the things that go through people's head, why they want to go through the baby disposal, but if finances are one of them, and you're like, I gotta work. I can't keep this kid. Well, that might be a reason for you to keep it. Would be one less child that ends up on a cold slab. Andika Seymour, thank you. Regards from Germany. Thank you very much. Maria Peruslis, common sense, and that's what it is. It's common sense. Too bad too many more people don't have it. Won't our companies who left come back to the USA? There's a big misnomer right there. Those companies didn't leave the United States. Every single one of those companies still has offices here. It's a stroke of the pen, and they're moving into a warehouse somewhere in America. It's not like they said, you know what, we want nothing to do with America, we're done. No. They're still American companies. They're just doing business in Mexico because business is gonna business. Business is there to make money. It's cheap. We can do what we want over there, and we don't need to pay this crazy stuff that's going on in America. Oh, there's a tariff now? Well, I guess we'll just open up a business, or rather a warehouse here. Hi, Barry. I'm a newbie to your channel. Since coming aboard a few months ago, I've been impressed with the excellence of your coverage of all things relevant for today. Thank you very much. Carrie Lemoyne, thank you. Tracy Day Barry, just got my 2018 tax return back last year. They gave me $50 interest check for holding my money for 5 years. That's criminal. In my mind, that's criminal. Gary, that's the part that gets me most. 10 to 12 games a year and somehow gigs a year, and somehow I always still owe more. Yeah, they're always going to make you more. The greatest story never told on BitChute. Yes, exactly. All right, everybody, we're going to see you tonight at 8:30. Either way, if they don't do the second part of it and have the people answering the questions, then we'll just segue into something else. I'm sure there'll be something else I can talk about today. But plan on being back here at 8:30 tonight. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day.